So my article was Teaching Vocabulary and Morphology in Intermediate Grades, and it's by Anthony Palumbo and Louisa Kramer-Vida, and they're professors at Long Island University. And another writer was Carolyn Hunt, and she was from Sabin Middle School in Colorado. I felt like reading it, she kind of was able to give a clear understanding of like the intermediate grades compared to the professors, where they kind of gave more research, and she was able to give a one-on-one like personal view, and it kind of made it easier to understand. This article focused a lot on the tiered vocabulary, which we've talked about a lot. Summarized what each tier is. So tier 1, the high frequency words, where the students will learn those from casual conversation that they have. And then tier 2 is more of your academic language. And then a step higher for tier 3 is mainly learned through direct teacher instruction, and it does tie in with the academic words. It's just a little more advanced. So in the article, they really hounded on the fact that tier 2 and tier 3 words are crucial, especially for intermediate grades, and it needs to be represented in direct vocabulary instruction from the teachers, and it's an essential tool of literacy instruction. They also gave some effective teaching instruction of vocabulary in intermediate grades. One of them was scaffolding, which, as we've talked about before, is letting them be on their own, but then also being able to have a teacher or someone more advanced work with them. Then word recognition skills, which includes syllabication, their academic vocabulary from tier 2 and including tier 3 words, and subject understanding. Another effective teaching instruction for vocabulary is associating the vocabulary meaning of words with the student's subject knowledge, which includes morphology, the comprehension of the words in their text, and meaningful word components. They really gave a lot on the morphology, syllables, and word recognition skills. Morphology being the study of internal structure of words, which include the morphemes, which is the grammar. It includes the prefixes, suffixes, constituent word, and a compound. And when a student has a morphological knowledge, like Anna was talking about earlier, it really helps the struggling students because it helps them unlock the pronunciation of meaning of words, especially if they don't have a good understanding of it. And it helps them learn the structure of English, because English has so many different components. And so especially for EOL learners, morphological knowledge is pretty crucial for them. And it's shown through studies that it does have a really good turnout for these students, especially the struggling students. In addition to the morphology, they talked a lot about analytic phonics instruction, and it supports the teaching of word division skills, and it helps students deal with pronunciations and meanings. And with this would be the focus on syllables or putting them into word families, like here on the pictures and like we did the other day in class. And this will help students have a better understanding of what the words mean, but also breaking them down and getting that concept of the different words. Also, subject matter words. It's important for teachers to create like simple exercises like the word families for students to use, or games and like manipulative materials. And this will help students learn the meaning of the affixes and the stems. And it reinforces the English orthography, the meanings of the words, the subject concepts, which will incorporate like the tier 3 words, and then also the word recognition skills. In addition, they talked a lot about syllabication, which really ties in to the phonics and the morphology and the word recognition. The syllables, it helps students use the morphemes, and it has them use it as a unit in decoding the words. especially if they're having a hard time understanding or even pronouncing the words. And so with the pronunciation aspect, it will help with the word recognition strategy for the struggling readers and the ELL students. And in the article, it stressed a lot about for teachers with struggling students to maybe start a lesson with like common endings or common beginnings. So in the article, the middle school teacher said that for her struggling students or ELL students who are really low-level readers and with the academic words and the tier 3 words, she ended up listing the common endings. So she put what the common endings that sound like shun, and then the common endings that sound like ol, like in beautiful, or lee, or QUE, and it's K. So she said that by doing that, it helped the students understand the meaning of, not the meaning of the words, but pronouncing the words, and she noticed a big difference in the fluency of the reading because they weren't having to sit and stop and focus in on one word. They were able to understand that just because it's a few letters that are different, it has the same sound. And so she said that with that, it helped with the fluency, but then the into syllables, it helped also. And also the teaching STEM knowledge incorporates with that, and it talked about introducing commonly used Latin and Greek stems into the curriculum because many English words are composed of so many Latin and Greek affixes and stems, and this will help increase students' vocabulary knowledge because if they know one stem, it unlocks the meanings to a lot of other words. And when they know these different affixes and stems, they can develop an understanding and kind of make a guess when they look at a word by knowing the meaning of the affix or the stem. So some of the examples they gave were like the Latin stem aud, A-U-D, means to hear. And so some English words that a student would be able to have a better understanding, maybe audience, auditor, audition, audible, and other common stems they gave examples from were gram, which is right, phone, sound, vision, see, and tell, distance. So students would be able to have a better understanding just by knowing a little bit about these stems and affixes. And lastly, they talked about an instructional close, which improves word meaning skills and subject comprehension, and it encourages thoughtful reading in students. It really gets them engaged with word meanings and subject knowledge and creates their domain knowledge. One example they gave for this is introduce subject concepts and scaffold the students as they use this new knowledge to deal with more difficult textbook reading as they went along. Sound, vision, see, and tell, distance. So students would be able to have a better understanding just by knowing a little bit about these stems and affixes. And lastly, they talked about an instructional close, which improves word meaning skills and subject comprehension, and it encourages thoughtful reading in students. And it really gets them engaged with word meanings and subject knowledge and creates their domain knowledge. One example they gave for this is to introduce subject concepts and scaffold the students as they use this new knowledge to deal with more difficult textbook reading as they went along. And also, they really emphasized on providing opportunities for students to create their own close exercises, so vocabulary words, and this is kind of like the way you get them engaged will help them remember easily because one student may not remember the way another student will, so it's important to get them engaged in their own learning with their vocabulary.